Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Round 12 Blue Abroad show. I'm your host, Terry, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, my man, Jono Baruch. Hello, my friend.
Terry, it is an honour to be here on the Blue Abroad show. What a week to come off the bench and sit with you, and I just can't wait to talk this one through and talk it through with everyone and really just continue basking in the glory of what's been an unbelievable few days.
Mate, you've got no idea how good this show is after a win, especially after a win like that.
I'm really looking forward to it.
I want to get through some thank yous before we begin. As everyone starts coming in and saying hello, it's great to see everyone here. Got to start by thanking our man Shad from Assertive Media, who has allowed this channel to go from one strength to another. Obviously, we can't be in the studio tonight, but nevertheless, he still helps us with a whole bunch of things, and he's really added so much value to the channel. So, Shad, thank you so much, mate. And I want to thank the members as well. We had quite a few join up last week. Pommy joined up last week during the show. So did my man, Hilltop Hoodlum, Andrew Bakes, Six Strip Apparel, Ben Drenkan, ZV3, and Mike Clifford. And Shad will have the rest of the members in the where are they? Down below. So you guys help with the channel in terms of growing, and we're allowed to then do giveaways, Guernsey giveaways, and those are really cool to be able to give someone a Carlton Guernsey. It just makes their day and hopefully makes their year to have something like that come for free. So thank you very much for your support. And yes, Dan will be back. Dan is just having internet issues where he unfortunately hasn't had his new internet installed. So, but that's fine because there's such a massive community here, and I like getting some new blood in there. So, like I said, Jono, mate, thank you again for joining. Now, let's begin, mate. Let's begin. We're all our chests pumped out. Posture's good. The baggers have won after the siren. We get one back. Talk to me about your experience on Saturday night. What was the game for you? What happened?
Well, for starters, I think I've finished plucking out all my grey hairs. But in all honesty, it's probably not a game that I'm going to be rushing to watch a full replay of. It was a very, scrappy game, and we knew wet conditions wasn't going to be a great spectacle. So the aim of the game just became really, take territory at every opportunity, and we picked the team that we picked. I thought would complement that game style really, really well, and fresh out of the gate, get the first three inside 50s. They weren't great inside 50s. Luke Ryan just picked them off as he seemed to do for the rest of the bloody game. It was just extremely tough, and then they just went inside and ended up slamming on the first three goals. And we're just thinking, well, this is just fantastic. We haven't started well again. It ended up panning out, and I wonder what everyone else thought of this. It kind of had a similar vibe to the game against them over there last year, where we slowly started to build into the game from the middle of the second quarter, where we kick a goal. And then I honestly thought after half time, we really started to get on top. And there have been a few things that we've spoken about that we've really wanted to see us rectify issues especially in previous weeks. And to a small degree, that happened in that third quarter, and that sort of drove us on to really, because we were the better team in the second half, and it ended up becoming a game of who could finish off their plays more, and we had a lot more looks coming out of the centre. We definitely had far more ascendancy, in the middle, winning a lot of the contested ball. Our centre bounce work in the middle, largely thanks to Tom DeConning, and our clearance work. We'll speak about Ed Curnow a little bit later on as we go. But we managed to get it inside 50 a lot more in that second half. And as the game wore on, the entries got deeper and deeper. And you saw guys like Harry get a bit more dangerous. Levi was always a presence. Eddie didn't do a lot, but he was still there, buzzing around. And it was just, I felt the game really, really turn. And I'm thinking, well, number one, this is typical of Carlton that we're not finishing our plays, but eventually something was going to happen. Something was going to break through and someone was going to kick a goal, and there were opportunities.
I mean, first of all, before I go on, Robbie Cook, thank you very much for the $1 donation, mate. Appreciate that. But yeah, Jono, I know that we leave that game so happy, and to have the moment, it's just so special. It means a lot for people our age who have experienced all that sort of thing, and to have that moment was special. But we can't shy away from the fact that we kicked 3 goals 7 to 1 goal 3 or 4, I think, after quarter time, and we didn't take our opportunities. And for the most part, it was tough to watch. Before I continue, I need to Black Carrot has made a $100 donation. Unbelievable. Getting in early, all the feelings in the videos, replays, everything by everyone has been worth more than just this. What we seen and felt was amazing. Thanks for sharing. Lesser go baggers. That W gives us huge inspiration for the final 6 games. Black Carrot, I don't even know what to say. That's incredible. Thank you so much for that. I've got something special for you. That's an incredible donation there, and that's very, very generous. And I'm a bit stumped. But yeah, so it wasn't. It was the sort of, some people will say that maybe it's one of those things that it's a win that covers over the cracks, right? And yes, you can make that argument. But this is kind of been where we have been this year. We've gone from just incompetent to struggling to learn how to win, and we're falling over the line. And the thing that has probably been constant throughout is that effort. It's been there, and there's a will. Sometimes we're good enough, sometimes we're not. But it would just be nice if we didn't put ourselves in such a tough position, wouldn't it?
Well, that's our 6th game that's now been decided by 10 points or less. Now, last year, and forget 2018, that was a disaster, but 2017, when we had all those games that you'll remember, we were leading at stages in the final quarter and then we lost it. This year, we're 4-2 in those close games, with both those losses are either they're 1 point to Melbourne and a Robbie Gray after the siren. So it's very much, learning a little bit more how to win and maturing as this group evolves. And I keep referencing different moments throughout the years. So you look at the Eddie Betts tackle on Jack Henry, round 3 against Geelong, Jonesy's header against Essendon. These are all, moments, and it's like, yeah, you can put it down to luck because, in a way, that ball doesn't land on Liam Jones's head. What goes on? We are getting into a position now where we're putting ourselves in a position to win the game. We are relying on an act of, brilliance or fluke to actually get us over the line. But before, we wouldn't be able to hold that position. And now the fact that we're able to compete for longer and we're stronger to really, make a fist of all that. And you look at those different moments that it's like, okay, that is a moment that can really build and galvanize this football team.
You need a bit of luck. You need a bit of luck here and there to just
you need a bit of luck, and you need a bit of the footy gods, finally looking down on you. And, after getting absolutely murdered by at least, I think there have been 5 goals kicked against us after the siren to win a game. This is the first time it's happened for Carlton since 1987, and Sticks Kernan did it. So it was nice to finally get that moment for us, and just, the euphoria and the reaction, that's how much it means. And you want moments along the way of a football club's build to see, like, okay, they're building.
Yeah. You've cut out a little bit there.
Building.
Yeah. You just cut out a little bit there. So what I'll do is I'll get to some fan comments because there's a few good ones coming through. Dom Pang, 4 wins and 2 losses. I think I saw a stat earlier today. I think there's been 6 games where the margin's been decided by less than 7 points. and we've won 4 of them, and we've lost 2 of them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Dom. It's a 4-2 split, and as I said, I don't know if it cut out by then, but those 2 losses were the 1-point loss to Melbourne and the Robbie Gray after the siren.
Yeah, and exactly right. So it's very important to be ahead of that ledger than square or behind, because that'll be something we'll know then. I mean, I think we still believe that we've improved, and it's funny, we lose that game, the conversation's so different. So let's be a bit more practical about it. So and this is for everyone at home as well. This take nothing away from how good that win was in that moment, and Jack Noons, and we love him, and he's etched himself into,
Does he have membership yet?
Well, he's a cult hero. He's a bit of a Nick Duigan type figure now. I had a conversation with someone today, and I said, he's a legend. And he goes, no. Sticks is a legend. Sauce is a legend. Cooter's a legend. Noons has got a while to go, which is fair. But
no, I think Noons is now in his special category of Carlton heroes.
Yeah.
Like they're legends of the club. They're your Nick Duigans of the club. And then there's just a special category now for Jack Noons, who will be there for, he'll be in the hearts of Carlton fans forever.
Yeah.
And he'll always have that moment.
Yeah. So for you guys at home as well, and I'm going to get to some of your comments. Yes, great win. Take nothing away. But what were the things that you were seeing throughout the game that we've got to improve on? Some people have talked about our forward line wasn't functioning as well. And you can probably talk about why. Quite a few guys were out. No guys have got continuity in there. But I'm going to get through a few comments here. Where's Andrew Satsias? Good evening to you, Andrew. We've got depth. We're not the team of old. We have reason to be optimistic. For the first time, we have difficult decisions to be made every week on who to choose. I like it. Vizzy Blue, we still need to address our moments of unanswered goals to our opponent. Dom Pang, good evening. I think it's good morning for you in Osaka. Dom, talking point leadership. Cripps winking at the opposition in the first before he kicks at goal and misses again. Think about the celebrated the one-hand mark last week. Compare that to Walsh kicking his goal in the third and immediately telling the team to keep their heads. I feel that Cripps needs to keep his focus and finish the deed. Walsh seems to get it, our future captain for show. I like it, mate. I like it.
It's a very interesting point that he raised, because over the last couple of weeks we've sort of been lamenting the lack of leadership and the lack of seniority with the players, really standing up when the flows aren't going against us. And I really thought that this week in that third quarter, Ed Curnow really stood up. Patrick Cripps' third quarter was huge. Sam Doherty, I thought, it wasn't the standard good Doc game that we're accustomed to, but it was a step in the right direction.
Better than the last few weeks, I thought, yeah.
And Sam Walsh as well, the young bull, played it. His whole game was great, but his third quarter was a real, come with me, boys, I'll do it. And to kick that goal and to have that reaction, it's like, calm down, boys. Let's not go over the top. The deed's not done yet. So I thought that was a real sign of growth. And, even though it was the first time this whole year where Jacob Ruedering really got taken to the cleaners as well, I thought in the last quarter as well, he really stood up as well and really started to put a presence on himself. Yeah, he'll be disappointed that Taverner got a hold of him, but to have young leaders like, Walsh and Wiedering really leading the way, that sets us up leadership-wise for the next 10 years.
Yeah. I'll get to that point on Walsh in the leadership group. That's something that hasn't been spoken about by all our experts in the media. But Cameron Armitage, thank you very much for the $5. He says, we're finals bound. Love it. Black Carrot says, our communication is terrible. Helena Petru, I've missed your comment, but I can see it in a moment. Helena Petru says, our forward line wasn't working the first quarter. We didn't touch the ball. Bryce believes that our midfield is struggling. Ed Curnow saved the day, but it looked like there was so many Freo players in space around the ball, all around the ground, and we were hard to be seen. Jake Marino believes our forward entries need to be improved. So does Paul Harvey. Isaiah believes SBS might be dropped. Yep, hang on a sec. Where are we? Louise Hall also believes that the delivery to the forwards isn't good enough. Ari Stamatakos, goal kicking and forward cohesion with players out there will fix itself. Everything else is really good. Ari, I've got your Tom Papley article, mate. I haven't forgotten about you. Ari is a year 11 student. He's written us a Tom Papley article that I'm going to wait to post on the Facebook page in the coming days. It's just hard to get past all the round 12 news, Ari. So stand by for that. Let's move on, Jono. Let's move on to the votes, mate. Before we do, actually, I want to get through one notable player who isn't in your votes. And then I want you to give me your 1, 2, and 3, mate. So the floor is yours. And guys, while you're watching, put your 1, 2, and 3 votes in there. I'd like to get them tonight and go through as many as I can. So, Jono, the floor is yours, my friend.
So my notable player is he divides opinion amongst the Carlton fraternity, and I'm not surprised, but I am kind of surprised that he wasn't included in the coaches' votes, especially from Teague's thing. But I'm giving Lockie Plowman, a real notable mention here. Going into the game, you sort of look at Fremantle's most dangerous players, and immediately your eyes are drawn to Fife, Michael Walters. Now, Fife's first quarter was out of this world. We have to acknowledge that. But really, when he went forward, Plowman was rotating between Fife and Michael Walters, and Walters didn't really have much of an influence on the game. I think he kicked it behind and only had like 10 disposals. But other than that, he really nullified him. And it's always said, if you're not noticed, you actually had a pretty good game. So I really, really like Lockie Plowman's game. What about you?
Can you imagine waking up in the morning of a game and saying to yourself, right, today I'm going to be playing on Michael fucking Walters and not Fife? Can you imagine? And I copped a lot of shit this today because I released my player ratings for the year, the tally, and I'll get to that as well. And Plowman's in my top 5 because I didn't do it last year and got egg on my face when the best and fairest came around. But at a footy club, the guy who takes that best small forward and then that resting, I just thought that role that he played on Saturday night didn't get spoken about. And you're right. I'm surprised he didn't get a coach's vote.
And he played on Jack Darling too last week. So he's got the ability to play on the monsters. And Jack Darling's one of the, most powerful big men in the game, probably behind Tom Hawkins. And then to go from that to play on the dynamic Michael Walters, he probably gets the toughest small forward every single week. And one of the areas where I think we've really improved this year is we've got, our small backs are really doing the job. So Doherty, Simpson, Tommy Williamson, who I really want to talk about later, and Plowman, they've all stepped up. And when was the last time, apart from Dan Butler, that a small forward really got a hold of us? He's really been fantastic, Lockie Plowman. I know it hasn't been announced yet, but it's rumored that he's signed on for a further 3 years and has thoroughly deserved that. Yeah,
I love it. Dane Meal, welcome to membership, mate. Thank you very much for joining the family. My notable is and Jono, I stitched you up a little bit because I told you that Noons was going to be my notable before the show, but it can be our notable. I think, I'm being very inconsistent, and I went the early crow. I gave him a 10 in my player ratings and all of that, and I didn't give him a vote. I haven't got him in my votes. I didn't think he had the best.
He's not in my votes either, so it's okay.
Yeah, I didn't think he had the best game before the kick in terms of how he was using the ball. I thought his effort was unquestioned, led the team in tackles. And for a guy who week to week is always the name that pops up where it's like, who should we drop? He's usually the first name that comes up from Carlton fans. And I've spoken about it before with quite a few people. And, with our footy club, very few footy clubs get around their players like we do. And when you have a club like that and you have a new player that comes from a team like St Kilda, for example, you've got to do something early in the piece to endear yourself. And once you do that, we're on you. I thought Jack Martin did that in his first game. I don't know if Mitch McGovern's quite done that yet. He hasn't really just put it all together, and that might be where the criticism is coming from. You've got to take your hat off to Noonsy because he is kicking goals this year. I don't know what the tally is for the season.
He's got 9 for the year now, Jack Nunes, and I'd hazard a guess to say 6 of them have just come in massive, massive moments. He's the first one that first night against Richmond. that massive one against Port Adelaide in the last quarter where he nearly went onto the roof of the Gabba. He had 2 in the opening quarter against Hawthorn when we were all white hot. That one against the Bulldogs as well. It's just big goals. And, it's great. He's come into the side, mainly with the promise of playing more off the wing and half back. Is shifted, I think, to the half forward line recently and played a bit of that, defensive forward role. And, he had the job on Nathan Wilson a little bit later in the game, gave away a couple of free kicks, which were silly but also smart. Silly in the sense that you just don't give that free kick away, but also smart in the sense that the ball had to come back and gave us a chance to set up numbers behind the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, as I was saying, just to sort of finish what I was saying, to kick that goal, the moment is what it was. It just endears himself. That's it. He's our boy now. He's here, and he might play poorly in the next few weeks, and he might get dropped, whatever the case may be. But he's made his money for us now. He doesn't earn as much as the others, but he's made his money for us now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So give us your votes, mate. 1, 2, and 3.
All right. 1 vote went to the skipper. I thought it was a nice welcome return to Patrick Cripps. Number 2 votes, the young bull Walsh, just keeps on keeping on, just Mr. Consistent every single week, whacks away. Disposal is getting better, which is something that we've really noted and something that we've really wanted to see. And I just couldn't go past Ed Kerno for the 3 votes. Clear best on ground in my book. 33 disposals, 10 clearances. I know he went at like 30% disposal efficiency, but his role was literally get the ball, hack it forward territory, and he did that. He was absolutely huge, Ed.
Yeah. No, I like him. I'm going to get to some of the fans' votes here. There's quite a few of them. Black Carrot, 3 to Kerno, 2 to Walsh, and 1 to Levi. Jesse F gave 1 to Noons. He gave 2 to Noons. He gave 3 to Noons. Christian O'Neans, 1 to Jones, 2 to Kerno, 3 to Walsh. Helena gave TDK 1 vote. Plowman 2, Kerno 3. Vizzy Blue, 1 to Plowman, 2 to Walsh, 3 to Kerno. Debbie O'Connor, good evening, Deb. 3 to Walshy, 2 to Ed, 1 to Levi. Dean Ponton, 3 to Kerno, 2 to Walsh, 1 to Plowman. Adam Ross, 3 to Kerno, 2 to Walsh, 1 to Levi. Paul Harvey, 1 to Cripps, 2 to Walsh, 3 to Kerno. Marcus Mancuso, 1 to Plowman, 2 to Walsh, 3 to Kerno. Thomas Baccelli gave to DeConing, he's notable. My votes went the same as what the others were just now, whereby I gave 1 vote to Lockie Plowman, I gave 2 votes to Walshy, and I gave Ed the 3 as well. And I've changed because I thought Walshy in my videos, I thought Walshy was sort of the best on ground just because he was just willing himself from contest to contest. But it's semantics. It doesn't matter. It's no one's right, no one's wrong. In actual fact, when you look at the coaches' votes, and they've come out, let's have a look at them. Kerno got the 10, so obviously both coaches believed he was best on ground. And then Cripps got 3 votes and Sam Walsh 2. While I'm on that, I need to make some adjustments to the player ratings. So those of you who know the player ratings videos, I start the conversation, you guys finish it. So the adjustments that I've made, I'm sorry I went hard at Cripps. I went from a 6 to an 8. I was a little too harsh on him. I just felt like his disposal was letting us down, but he did will himself. And Noonsy went from a 10 to a 9. So that was thanks to your feedback. So I've adjusted those. Chanel Blano with the $5 donation gave 10 to Noons, 3 to Kerno, 2 to Walsh, and 1 to Cripps. So that's that. Jono, any other themes or issues before we sort of move on away from this game that you want to talk about?
Couple of things. The first point I just want to make, just a bit of a reference to, this whole song and dance that's been made up about the whole, AFL investigation surrounding the Nunes kick. Have you ever seen The Dark Knight? Have you?
I have.
So, you'll know the scene I'm talking about with, the Joker talking to Harvey Dent's like, a dodgy decision goes against Carlton and nobody bats an eyelid. Then Carlton benefits from a dodgy decision and everyone loses their freaking mind. It's got a bit of that like about it, and it's annoying, but these conversations are going to come out. So I think this is more just a plea to the people out there. Just let it run its course. It's the media cycle. They need something to talk about. That's generally what they're talking about, and that's why you've got shows like Blue Abroad, and you've got the podcasts who try set the agenda the right way and tell them, how it is. And Gibbons probably should have taken the kick, but he would have flushed it anyway. So there you go.
I think there's a great point you've just made, and the boys from the Ian Prendercast were talking about this on last week's episode about, and I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't read many mainstream media articles for the AFL. Tracy Reed, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the $35 donation, Tracy. That's incredible. I don't read any of the mainstream media articles. I know that I'm not going to get an opinion about our footy club that resonates with what's actually going on. Like, I'll give you two examples. Now, I love Nick Revolt. He was on the couch a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how Caleb Marchbank's in the reserves, and he was injured at the time. And when he comes back, he believes that Marchbank's our best defender. Now, I get the compliment, thanks, Nick, but you clearly don't know what you're saying by saying that. He's very good, don't get me wrong. And then there was David King last week where he was saying, where are Carlton's tools? What are they doing? And he didn't realise that Harry, Charlie, McGovern were all injured. And to be honest, and you're right, what we as a club have done, I think we lead the way with the fan media. There's so many podcasts, and I wish I had them all written down. I sort of don't want to start listing them and forget one, but there's so many of them out there who know our club inside and out. And I just wonder if the AFL will utilise that in the future, because you've got maybe 1, 2, or 3 or 4 people who are covering 18 teams. They're not going to get it right. They're not going to understand what's actually going on within the club. And that's why I sort of give them a bit of a pass, because it's like, well, the industry just needs to hurry up and start getting with the times. Like, you got to get 18 correspondents, That's just my little take on it. But I think you're right. I think the fans are smart enough now anyway to know where to get the right information from. And I don't really buy into the mainstream stuff anymore, if I'm honest with you. But it's a great point.
No, of course. And like, I think I also read a little bit of it, because obviously I'm doing a little bit of writing myself. And there was an article I think John Ralph put out the other day, and it was like, where's the Carlton youth at? And the only comment that I made, and I even tweeted this and it got a bit of love, so thank you to everyone out there that liked it. It was a simple comment, like, just a little bit of research wouldn't go astray, John. That's it. That's pretty much all we ask for. Write your stories. I understand that you need to, have something to talk about and keep the news cycle shifting. I'm sorry to everyone that we've rambled off onto a bit of a tangent about this, but I'm sure it's a bugbear of mine, and it's also a bugbear of yours, Terry. But it's just something that we need to continue, looking at, and challenge as well. It's okay and it's right to have a go at that, but also just tone it down a little bit. And the AFL will release a statement on the state of play, and they're like, okay, they probably got the deliberate against Tabernar right, because we can't find a good camera angle of the Andy Brayshaw one on Doherty, that one will be right. But what will be wrong is that Jack Newnes shouldn't have taken the kick and Michael Gibbons should have taken the kick. Okay, but this happened, and if you really wanted Gibbons to take the kick, he would have kicked it anyway. Just have a look at the Port game. He kicked one from almost the same spot in the first quarter.
Yeah. Jesse F says Robbie Gray is just a discount Jack Newnes with the $30 donation. Unbelievable.
That's fantastic, Jesse.
That is comment of the night.
Well done. Does he get a prize for comment of the night?
I've got to start thinking of one from week to week. I do. I've got to think of it. But No, those are some really good comments, mate. Let's move on. Let's maybe get some more fan comments. Where are we? Ari, you can see how much the Port loss hurt our boys. Both Noons and Cripps mentioned it straight away, and to have the same situation benefit us could be the turning point of our season. Tim Wilkes says, so true, would listen to my 6 Carlton fan sources than mainstream media any day. You know what? Let's try and list them. So, Prendercast, The Blueprint, Carlton Live, Blues Footy, The Blue Baggers, Navy Blue Corner. Help me out here.
Blue Heaven.
Oh, fuck. Heath Buck, My Blue Heaven. There's the new one with the Unlucky but Blue Baggers. There's 8 of them I've listed now. Pommy in Oz, if you know, obviously he's part of the Blue Broad channel, but he does his own stuff too. This is the problem, because if I've forgotten someone, I don't want to be disrespectful. But there's 9 channels right there with people who are living, breathing, watching. And then when for example, Nick Negropontis does an article on SCN, or Riley Beveridge, you know that you're going to get the right source. So the right information's out there if you want it, you know? Carlton FC Daily. Help me out, guys, in the comments if I've missed one. It's not done on purpose, but it's just... Anyway, that's that. Let's move on, mate. There's a bit of an AFLW recap that we need. I want you to give us an update on... and Carlton fans videos is the king. Yeah, Carlton Blues fans on YouTube as well with the highlights. So, Jono, give us an update. What happened during the AFLW trade period?
So it was actually, all things considered, a really, really good period for the Blues. As I'm sure people will be aware, Sarah Hosking went to the Tigers, and Jade Van Dyke also found her way to St Kilda, which both moves will be good for them, as people first, with the young midfielders that we've got in Egan, McAvoy, Prasparkas, G, there probably wasn't going to be, and as good as Sarah is, there probably wasn't going to be a lot of time for her in the midfield. And then to bring in someone like Elise O'Day, who's that experienced midfielder who could be the difference between, going from, a side that is going to make the finals and a grand final to potentially winning it. She's that elite mid. We also brought in Maddie Gurin, who has got ridiculous outside speed. She came across in that deal from Melbourne, injured her ACL at the start of the year, but is tracking on nicely and will be good to go by, if not the start, very early on in the preseason. And we also brought in Charlotte Hammonds, who's come from the Gold Coast, bit of a mid-forward, got some speed, lots of good things to like about her. So that's the great news. And we've also signed up 16 of our core girls from last year, on a lot of them on 2-year contracts and the rest of them on 1-year contracts. So all the familiar names from last season that went on that incredible run will be back. And the fantastic news today is that our little champion Maddie Praspark has just tacked on another year to her current deal. So get ready to watch the best player in the comp run around.
Prasparkas, mate.
She is a star. And I guess, in slightly disappointing news for the AFLW team, but it's also got a tinge of good news. We knew that Chloe Dalton, one of the Rugby Sevens stars, was going to hopefully go back to back in Tokyo this year, but with that not happening and that being pushed off another year, she's going to take 2021 with the AFLW team off, stay in the Sevens program full time, hopefully go to Tokyo, win back-to-back gold, and then come back to the Blues in 2022.
That's very impressive by her. And what I like about the AFL, not just the Carlton AFLW team, but the AFLW in general, is that they promote that dual sport, those achievements. I think that's quite unique to have that. Obviously, it's a shorter season and the circumstances allow them to do that. But I think it's quite cool that, Taylor Harris can go and fight for a title, and Chloe Dalton can represent her country in the Olympics. So on a side note, I think that's really cool. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the girls whenever they play next, because I really enjoyed going to those games last year, and seeing that new environment. As my grandfather Papu says hello, Peter Apostolos, Yasu Papu. Mate, I want to move on. I've got a couple of themes here I want to discuss, right? And these have come from some fans, and so for a lot of you that have asked the question, they'll be addressed here. But the first one is, it's a situation that's going to arise. It's a bit of a mix. So Caleb Marchbank, right? People are asking about him. He's now had 2 games in the scratch matches. He's going to come into the side at some point. So it's a 2-part question. Discuss with me, and for you guys at home, I want to get your thoughts too. Caleb Marchbank, does he come in? I'm going to assume he does come in at some point. Now, if he does, what do we do? What's the mix? Is it a Sam Petrevski-Seaton up the ground? And that might be leading into my next question. So let's start with Marchbank. You guys at home, what are we doing with Marchbank? Jono, what are we doing with Marchbank?
So I've said this to you privately, and I've said this to quite a few people in passing. I personally believe that Caleb Marchbank is one of the most underrated players on our list. He's got a lovely kick. He's a fantastic intercept marker. And if you look through, the games that he has played for Carlton, and I know some of them was in, that 2018 year was where the bulk of them came, but he's one of the massive reasons as to why we didn't really get scored heavily against, because he's got that ability to play on the talls, play on the smalls. I think is definitely in our best state aim. He comes in, he's an asset to that back line, and, Wiedering takes the number 1, Jones takes the number 2, and it just takes the pressure off them as well to sort of, just hold on to them and, maybe give that free kick away. It can take that out of the question, because they'll know that they've got someone like Marchbank who will come across, take the mark 99% of the time, and do that and then exit quickly. So I think there definitely is a place for Caleb Marchbank in our best team. Whether it comes this week or the next week, I don't know. Who goes out, I don't know. I think over the next, little period where we've got 4 games in 14 days, you're going to see a lot of people rotated through different spots and in and out of the side. So we definitely will see him. In what role? Definitely up that half back, maybe pushing up to a wing. And that leads into the next question, I think.
Yeah, well, there's a bit to it, because they said in the scratch match review that they were trying him for they had 3 periods, and one of those 3 periods he played up on a wing. And I guess they're trying to use something there. And what we know, what do we know? We know that they like to play 7 defenders in the side every week. And it allows them with flexibility, because, they can move up the ground at times and those sort of things. I'm just curious, because sort of I look at who he could replace, and for me, I haven't forgotten 2017. I know exactly what kind of defense we had in 2017, and those boys all had synergy. And you can only imagine 2 years later, they've got more experience, Doherty's back, etc. So I think to myself, is it Willow? And I say no, because I think Willow shows enough, and obviously there's a bit of the future there. I say to myself, is it Simo? And then I think, well, maybe it is, but at the same time, while we're still in the finals hunt, I think I still want his experience around. And then I say, well, is it Samo? And I'm like, well, no, I get it. We're trying to use a role for him there. And I know that some of us want him to play up the ground, but at the end of the day, we're just fans, and the team, Teague knows better and the coaches know better. And then it's like, well, is it Jones? Well, it's like, well, no, because he plays a role as well. So there's such an unknown. And where we as fans will discuss it till we're black and blue, and we'll probably be wrong. Some of us will be right. Some of us will be wrong. But it's fascinating. I just think he has to be in that mix.
No, I agree with what you're saying there. With all those guys, they all play a role. And as we touched on earlier, the smaller guys are really helping the big guys flourish. And no individuals really gotten a hold of us this year, ever since earlier on in the season. So it's a tough team to get into, and we've seen, it's been consistent with David Teague's selection this year. He doesn't really, make a lot of unforced changes. So it's, he makes you earn your spot. And we saw that with, they really talked up Paddy Dow last week and saying like, oh, he was so far and away the best on ground, the scratch match. And they're like, that's great, Paddy, you were awesome, but do it again. Really force your way into this team. And, you know, we like that. And we like the mentality that David Teague's got. And he said in his press conference at the end of the game, we believe now that this team's good enough to contend. And I think we'll see a lot in the upcoming match selection when the team is picked for the Gold Coast game, just where I think we're going to go with this side and what road we're going to take, because there's a lot of decisions in terms of guys who could be available, guys who played well in the scratch match, guys who are coming back from fitness and injury as to who could come in to play on Friday night. And a lot of it is going to tell where we think we can go as a team this year.
No, I love your comments. I echo that sentiment. I think you're spot on. And I think we have a very short memory at times. I've seen a lot of, these are the two comments that I'm seeing most of the time. Number one, we need to inject speed into the team. It's like we put Fisher in, we need to inject speed. We put Honey in, we need to inject speed. We got Cottrell in, we need to still inject speed. The second one is put the kids in, play the kids. And then it's kind of like, well, do we all remember like last year and the year before where we did play the kids? And then the sentiment was we were playing the kids and they weren't all able to compete for 4 quarters because they were just too inexperienced. And then I remember the comments and the sentiment last year being like, well, we've got to add experience into this team now, and these kids have to be made to earn spots. And then we get to 2020 and it's like, put all the kids in. Philp, Honey, Cottrell, Ramsey, put them all in. And it's kind of like, we're never happy.
You're never satisfied as a footy fan. Or even if you're won by 100 points, there'll be something to whinge about. Yeah.
Scott Lewington has made a comment here, and I think this hits the nail on the head. This is the deepest team that we've had in a long time. I think you're right. Can you imagine Cottrell, De Koning, and, you know, I know Honey wasn't on the list last year, but had we played those 3 last year, or let's say it was another first-year player, whoever it was, last year or the year before, we wouldn't have been able to compete. But what it tells me is we've got A, depth, and B, we've got a system. And the great teams have a system. Richmond lose all those players, all those stars this year, even last year. They bring in, you know, Arts and the others that have come in, and they're all able to play their role because the system is clear. And I'm very buoyed by that. I'm very buoyed by the fact that Cottrell, Honey, De Koning played, and we were still able to compete.
Well, Damien Hardwick said it pre-game last week, you know, they pick their team based on a plug and play, soldier in, soldier out. They've got such a strong system that, they could be missing a lot of their, you know, first choice guys, and they're all premiership players. But because they've got such a strong system and everyone comes in and they know exactly what their role is, that it stands up. And that's a reason why they're able to compete week in, week out. And we're definitely not there yet. We're not even close to being in the same conversation to compete with the Richmonds of the world. But it's the steps that we're taking along the way, and it's the blocks that Teague has built in place. And it's also the people that has brought in. You know, we've spoken a bit about Luke Power, Dan O'Keefe's coming in and being, you know, solely on the development guys and the Northern guys. And, you know, I heard Dan O'Keefe speaking the other week, and is like, these guys in their first and second and third year, they're my sole, you know, focus. So we have guys in our coaching staff now who are focused on building these guys up to play consistently well at the lower levels. And then when they're ready for a run or a taste at AFL level, they go in, they have their taste, they know what they have to work on. And then eventually when they come back into the team, they're going to be much better players of it. So you look at it now and everyone asks, you know, where's Paddy Dow? Where's Liam Stocker? Where's Lockie O'Brien? And you forget that they're in their second and third years respectively, but they're going to come back. And you know now that they're going to come back into the team, the AFL side, significantly better players and contributors than what they were in their first couple of years when they were being, dare I say it, gifted games, or just running around, you know, still learning what to do and what they're capable of. So it's definitely a learning curve, and it's something that, I've enjoyed having to watch everyone really have to earn their keep and earn their spot. We've seen guys come in and take those opportunities. We've also seen a couple of guys, get given an opportunity presented to them and then not taken, and now they're back running around or in scratch matches. So it's something that we're going to have to work on. But we know that leading into this next part of the year, we're going to have to rotate through our squad, and it's just going to be something that we're going to have to live and learn with.
Yep. No, very well said, mate. The other one I wanted to bring up, because a lot of people are asking about Paddy Dow, and the one of the two things that was asked, spoken about in the questions today on Instagram, especially, was, where's Paddy Dow? What's going on with Paddy Dow? And there's a bit of worry, and it's kind of like, well, should we start worrying about Paddy Dow? And I think for the most part, you've just summed it up exactly there when you spoke about the kids, right? Paddy Dow's on an interesting path. I was talking to a really good friend of mine today, Emilio, great friend of the channel, great friend of mine, and he was saying, isn't it interesting? You look at Paddy Dow's experience, right? And I want to compare it to Jacob Wiedering. So year number 1, they both play. They show some really good signs. Year number 2, second year blues. It just doesn't look good. Confidence is shot. The pressure of being the high draft pick is there. Now, Paddy Dow's in year number 3. He's been injured for the first half of the year. And Wiedering in his third had a few more of those type moments, and then he started getting a little better towards the end of year 3. Year 4, I think the second half of year 4, it clicked. And I can't help but feel like there's a similar pathway there. Now, I understand Wiedering is a key position player, so you give him that out. But I can't help but feel like this is a similar situation, and we just need to be a little bit more patient with Paddy Dow, because you just look at him, and I spoke to him last year, about 12 months ago, and I look back on that video. I'm gonna post the video when he plays a game this year. You look at his face, and you look at the photos that you're seeing right now. He's looking so much more like a man just from that alone. Now, does that mean he's a better player? I don't know. Is he developed? I don't know. What do you make of that? What do you make of that journey, and why are we so impatient?
Yeah, the journey you've mapped out is 100% legit. It usually takes you to about 40, 50, 60 games into your AFL career to really start hitting your straps and knowing what you're doing. The guys that have come in the last couple of years, your Walsh, Rosie, Lukosius Kings, they're just, that's a super draft and really one out of the box. And you get a few of those every single year. You just come in and just absolutely dominate from minute 1. Paddy Dow's played 40 games in, 2 years, roughly. That's obscene. That's unheard of. Lockie O'Brien's played 35 games in 2 years. Harry Mackay's played 42 games in 5 years on the list. Sam Petrevski-Seaton's has only missed 2 games since he got to Carlton, and this is his fourth year of senior football. Zach Fisher, 58 games. Even now Will Setterfield in his 4th year, he's played 31 games, and he's only starting now to really take that next step and get into it. So it usually takes that amount of time to really find your feet and know what you're doing. And I'm a believer in Paddy Dow. I know what he has to offer. I watched him a little bit at under 18s level. He's got a real point of difference with his breakaway speed and extraction out of the midfield. And when he does eventually work his way back into the team, he's going to be an asset. And hopefully he's going to be a really good player for us for a really long time.
He's got some things that I see, and I get it. It's happening in the match simulation at training, and it's got to translate to games. But he does some things that very few can do. Him and Cunningham and their ability to exit out of stoppage, and for all that speed we're looking to inject into the side, he can do it. So I just thought it was an interesting conversation, and I wanted to have it with you. And what I want to do is I want to look ahead. We're about to play the Gold Coast Suns, and what a time to get the Suns, hey? Off of 4, they're going to have 4 sleeps. They're playing right now as we speak. I don't want to talk too much about the game and what's going to happen. I just more so want to talk about, and also for you guys at home, and I think I forgot to do this earlier, so we'll just put it in now. Talk to me about your potential changes, if any, for this week. And this is obviously to you, Jono, but you guys at home, could you please put in, and just remember the in and out for this week.
Well, we flagged earlier, selection's going to be really interesting this week. We play on the Friday night, and then we've got 4 games in 14 days. So who are they going to look to rest a week early before the flurry? So it is Indigenous round. So Eddie Betts is going to play and is going to kick goal of the year because that's what he does.
Yes. He loves playing the Gold Coast Suns. He kicked 12 against them last year.
Yes. So there's questions, who's going to be available? Will Martin be okay after 1 week with the calf? Will Cunningham and McGovern come up? They're definitely in our best 22. Are they going to be okay to come up after 2 and 3 weeks respectively? Will they bring Pitney in to play instead of or with Tom De Koning? Does the likes of Paddy Dow and Caleb Marchbank done enough in the reserve? So there's a lot of different questions and permutations. And again, much like it was last Saturday night, it's fantastic that we got the win and it keeps our season alive. But make no mistake, Terry, and to everyone out there, exact same thing on Friday night. Our season is on the line again. We have to go into this next bunch with an even ledger and staying in touch with that top 8. Because if we drop this game, we're not going to, but it will be worth, just playing the kids for the rest of the year and planning for next year. We still want to be in with a chance. We still believe we are the chance. And I think the way that we pick this team will show us which way we're going to go and how it's going to go. Because as we've said, playing the Gold Coast now it's a very different proposition to playing the Gold Coast Suns 6 months ago.
Yeah, and look, you're right. It is a massive game. The Freo one was massive because it would have been the first time we lost 3 in a row this year, and finals would have been out of the equation. And we're in round 13, and we have an opportunity to go even in terms of our win-loss record. And I posed a question on the show 3 weeks ago now when we got this block of 4 games, and I asked the question of what would be a pass mark for you guys, and everyone said 2 minimum. We obviously lost the first 2. We just won on the weekend. So we win this week. We're looking at 6 and 6, and then destiny's in our hands. We've got a 9-day break before the Pies, who, and obviously I don't want to look too far ahead because that's the beauty of this season for me. It's really allowed me and everyone to look week to week. But you're right, mate. The opportunity to go 6 and 6 and really have a crack at the rest of the year and play finals footy. Let's not be afraid to use the word. Like, we have a chance to put ourselves in a position to play finals football in 2020. And if we have the opportunity, we've got to take it, and we've got to, look at them and not expect them to, well, maybe, expect them to make it, because we're putting ourselves in these positions. We're playing well enough to be at 500 for the year. So anyway, I'll get through to some of the suggested changes. And as you said, there's a lot of ifs this week. If he's healthy, if he's back. So what have we got here? Josh Kirby says he wants TDK to stay in and keep him in the ruck. Sava says in McGovern, out Honey. Nathan Oliveri says no change. And 888 Curly, in McGovern, out Honey. Kuda says in Martin, out Honey. I'm not really sure what the go is with Martin. I would assume tomorrow, every Tuesday, the injury report comes out, so we'll get a better taste of what's going on. Brock Bowman says Dow for Kennedy and Cunningham for Honey. Debbie believes Levi might be rested. Helena Petru wants Honey out and Martin in. It's his old side. Very good point. Obviously, Indigenous round as well, so that's important. Michael Walmsley, in Martin and Dow, out SPS and Honey. Adam Turnoy, Cottrell needs to go back and work on his disposal. Dow in. Neck minutes. That's brilliant. Neck minute says Martin and McGovern are in, and Kennedy, who's injured, and Honey will come out. Oh, that's got me good. Kennedy had a corky, by the way, just for those who were asking about that. Chris Bryder says McGovern is no certainty to return. He's having scans, so that'll determine if he plays or not. Josh says we need a percentage. I think we can get it from Adelaide. I think we're looking too far ahead then, Josh. I think we've got to just take it 1 week at a time, my friend. So yeah, those are the suggested changes there. So now what I want to do, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes to go. This will just be back to the fan Q&A, and I've got a few pre-recorded questions here. Adam Tornoy, who I just mentioned, he says the following, Jono: something must be done with our kicking forward and out of packs. So many wasted opportunities in the game with the kick and hope. We got beaten time and time, not playing in front, not trying to find a target. Do you think there's a disconnect between mids to forwards or forwards not presenting? What do you think?
I think in, categorizing and specifying the game on Saturday night, because it was a wet game, the aim of the game was really to just, get it forward at every opportunity and take as much territory as you can, because we knew that the ball was going to be on the ground for most of the night. Generally speaking, and I think you've seen this in the way that we set our team up, is that we usually have our best kickers exiting defence and making that decision. And no, Jack Martin hurt us, because he's really the one who delivers silver service inside 50 for us. And, the likes of Jack Martin, Mark Murphy, they're the ones that you want the ball in their hands of delivering inside forward 50. So while I agree that, kicking's still not 100% our strong suit, and, and take last week's game in isolation, but it is getting better. It's so much better than what it was, where it used to be like cover your eyes. And now it's a matter of, it's like, okay, we do have the players that are capable. It's just a matter of executing. And a lot of that's just in their head.
Yeah. Nathan Oliveri says, we need to remember, due to the circumstances, the team isn't able to train system and structure. Forward line connection takes time to build and needs to be done on the track. It will come. If I could give a comment a star, I would give that one a star.
10 points, Nathan.
Well, let's think about it. Harry has not had a continuous run of games. He comes in, comes out. He comes in, he plays 2, he comes out. He comes in, comes out, comes in. He's one that needs continuity. I expect him to be a lot better this week. McGovern's been out. All of a sudden, you got to, shift the magnets around. Martin's come out. You got to shift him again. Charlie, okay, he was never in the picture this year, so, we can't talk about that. But, yeah, I think it's a mixture of what you said and then the fact that, forward synergy with midfielders takes time, it takes repetition, and it takes match simulation, actual match simulation. And I think Nathan's hit the nail on the head. You can't train it. You can't train system.
No, you can't. And I think there's one more thing on that. And it's like this club, and it just makes this win that much sweeter, is we were the only club we've been in the hub now for about 6 or 7 weeks. 4 of those weeks we've been in a hard quarantine. We did the 2 weeks in Queensland, hardly a time to breathe, went over to Perth, the 3 games there, 2 of them spent in, hard quarantine. So never mind, not having a lot of time to train. There's not a lot of time to actually go out and be free as well. So I just thought, that's a really big point to make in the context of this win and just how big it is. And, and also touching on that point, it's like they don't have a lot of time to train together and train their systems and their structures. So it really is, take what it is, a little bit of take what you can get. And also, there's a lot of things to work on. And you can see the improvement, and you can see that next year with hopefully everything getting better and they're allowed to train a lot more than they are, then that will only get better from there.
A few people are asking a very interesting question, which might become a bit more prominent over the coming weeks, and it's about the Ruck situation. Shad mentioned it here. There's just a few of them here. Philip Pezzano on Instagram, a few of you. So this is for all of you that asked. If Pitt's fit, all right, are you playing him with Tom De Koning, with De Koning? Are you playing De Koning with Levi as the chop out? What are you doing? You guys at home who didn't ask the question, but I want to get your answers. Who are you playing, TDK or Mark Pitternet? Jono, what's the situation?
I'm just thinking of the type of player that Jared Witts, and Witts is like your more old school smack the body ruckman. And as much as I love what TDK has done, I just think you need someone with a little bit more mass and meat on their bones going up against him. So I'd be going with Pitternet and Casbolt as your relief ruckman this week. Yep.
There is that, we're all so desperate to see our young kids play, and TDK's obviously there's an intrinsic emotional value with him. Is the project player, and we want to see if the development has happened. And hello to the Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everyone else's answers, but we've got about 30 seconds to go. So I want to turn. I've got two things to do. One, so basically, obviously, with the situation at the moment, businesses that are struggling, and I've just sort of thought, what can I do here? If you guys have a business, if you're on Facebook, tag the business right now. So as I say goodbye tonight, the businesses that are tagged, whether you want to put a website or your Facebook page, Instagram page, put them down there now, and then people can click on them after this finishes. I just thought it was a little idea that Shad Daddy had before the show. So start putting them through now, and I'll wrap it up. But most of the people here are saying TDK. Some people are saying Pitto. Curly says put Pitt in and Levi out. That's an interesting one there. Nathan Oliveri. They are both inexperienced rucks. Pitternet has tried, and TDK has done well. We can't expect TDK to go week in, week out now. Lucky to have both. Mighty Blue 7. We will lose players at the end of the year. You need to turn over minimum 6 players. That's why Dow and Casbolt are in the gun to be traded. Dom Pang says the Blues with a strong win this week. Where are we? What are we? Samuel Laird, who wins our John Nicholls medal? Well, I've got, for those of you, check out the Facebook page, on my Twitter page and Instagram. I've got the player ratings for the year. So up until round 12. So you guys can check that out. But Jono, who's leading the John Nicholls medal for now?
I think the leader of the John Nicholls medal is wearing number 23 and will have an All-Australian blazer come the end of the year.
Yep. Love it. I've got him ahead as well in my voters. So we'll see what happens, because you never know. Lockie Plowman finishes 3rd last year and no one picked that. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm also sitting here thinking, and I'm looking at the list of uncontracted players and who's on that list, and who's going to go on more. And, you've got the debates with list sizes and everything. And I look at the person who was best on ground on Saturday night in Ed Curnow, and I'm just thinking, surely this club won't let Ed. I know it's stiff competition now, but I don't think the club will let Ed Curnow finish his career without winning a best and fairest. He's been that loyal and good a servant, and is just whacked away every single week, that I don't think the club will let that happen. But as I said, there's so many people having a good year, and it's a competitive field. And thank you, Tim Wilkes, for the beautiful words. And it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. And I'm actually excited, because I think for this year's John Nicholls medal, we're gonna see a lot of the new breed and that new generation take the leap into that top 10. And, you'll still have guys like, your Cripps and your Sam Doherty's and your Mark Murphys and your Casbolts and your Jones right up there. But you'll see Will Setterfield in the votes. You'll see Martin in the votes come the end of it. Wiedering will feature prominently. Sam Walsh will poll really, really well. So you're going to start to see that next generation slowly filter through. And it's what we need. We need the youngsters to come in, start making their mark and being the better players in the side week in, week out, because that is the way that we're going to grow as a football club, and we are going to get better, and this list is going to develop.
Well said, mate. Well said. Well, with that being said, Jono, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed your company, mate. I found myself just listening and just sort of like, it was like very dreamy. I was like, oh, so much sense. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I think everyone in the audience can attest to that. If you're on YouTube, spam Jono in the chat. But, I appreciate it, mate.
No worries, mate. It's an absolute joy to come on here, talk about the club that we love, especially after a win. It's just, we said at the top that it's such a fantastic, euphoric feeling. I'm amazed that, number one, I didn't wake up my entire suburb, and number two, nothing's broken in my house after that. So really well done. And thanks again to Terry for all your work and putting this together. And it's absolutely fantastic what you and all the great, channels and podcasts and everyone's doing this year for our club. It really is fantastic, and it's great to have it all out there, and it's good stuff to listen to during the week. So thank you guys so much, and I'm looking forward to coming on again if you'll have me.
I would love to have you again. I was about to ask you if you would come on again. I was going to put you on the spot in front of all the people, but I'd love to have you on again, mate. I really would. I just, like I said, you speak sense, my friend. So As you can see in the comments, the Jono spam is there. So thank you very much, everyone. Shad from Assertive Media. Also, for those of you who put Grego, just a quick one. Grego, was the one that made the blue Papley crew banner. He was our best on ground off the field. And he's got a tour company, which I think I tagged in here. So make sure you go and check out his company and anyone else. If you want to get in touch with me, I'd love to do something and help out your businesses. So get in touch with me and let's have a chat. Have a great one. Friday night, big game. 6-6, baby. Let's go. Go the Mighty Blues.